All right, guys, so today we did have the initial release of the College Football Coaches Top 25 Preseason poll. I believe the AP poll should come out next Monday. I think that's how they do it. And then a few weeks from that, we will have week 0, which is very limited this year. There's not many games in week 0. I'm just telling you guys. And then week 1 will happen. This year, week 1 falls maybe late August. It's normally either late August or really early September. This is going to be a very long season, so I do think it's going to be late August, and teams are getting 2 byes throughout the entirety of the college football regular season. It is very long, but you can see this coaches poll, obviously, it really doesn't matter if we're being honest. I mean, it'll give us a good criteria for probably how the AP poll is going to look, but when it comes to the actual rankings, like during the game when you see where a team's ranked, it's not going to be coming from these rankings. It's going to be coming from the AP preseason poll. But just taking a look at this, no surprise, Georgia sitting at number 1. I do know there's a lot of people that have I've seen a lot of things where Ohio State's number 1. In terms of like the AP and the coaches, I think they're going to have Georgia number 1, mainly because of the quarterback situation with Carson Beck returning for Georgia. Ohio State very likely to start Will Howard, the transfer, who's decent. I mean, I don't hate Will Howard, but in terms of, having a returning quarterback, they're always going to get an advantage over a team that maybe has a little bit more of a kind of question mark surrounding that position. But Will Howard, I think, will be good. You can see Georgia getting 46 first-place votes, Ohio State just 7. You do also have Texas and then Michigan getting 1, mainly because Michigan was 15-0 last year. Somebody's saying, they should be number 1 because they were 15-0, but obviously most people not agreeing with that. You can see the overall points, Georgia about 60 points above Ohio State. So I do think this will be relatively the consensus top 4. Although you can look, Oregon and Texas are very close here, just a 5-point separation. I do think Georgia will be 1 in terms of the AP poll, Ohio State 2, Oregon 3, Texas at 4, and then they do have Alabama at 5. Though, honestly, that could be like a consensus top 5 because Bama with Jalen Milroe returning. I know Nick Saban retired, but still, they also do have the first opponent for all of these teams. Georgia has that game against Clemson. That's a noon game, which is kind of weird. And I'm guessing Georgia's probably going to have the crowd advantage like 70-30. That game's in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You do have Ohio State facing Akron. I think they're like 51-point favorites. Oregon facing an FCS team. And then you do have Texas facing Colorado State, should be an easy win. Alabama facing Western Kentucky, another easy win. Ole Miss coming in at number 6. So there's a big discrepancy in terms of Ole Miss in these rankings and the ESPN FPI, the Football Power Index. They've got Ole Miss at like 13 or 14, but here, Ole Miss getting a ton of transfers, returning Jackson Dart. They lost Judkins to Ohio State, but overall, that is a lofty ranking. I don't think they're going to be number 6 in the AP poll. They'll probably be number 8 or 9. They get Furman in their first game, going to be an easy win for them. Notre Dame at number 7. So this is a potential breakout year for Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame. We will see. That's a tough week 1 game on the road at A&M, and I guess they do have A&M ranked 20th. I'm kind of surprised A&M is ranked in these coaches rankings, honestly, based on how A&M has underperformed, the amount of players they lost in the portal, but they still do have a ton of talent even with all of that. In looking, you can see Michigan right now sitting at number 8. They lost a bunch. We'll see what happens with the investigation and everything like that. Fresno State, they're not a terrible team, but obviously we would expect Michigan to win that game. I think Michigan's going to be a fringe playoff team this year. Probably lose around 3 games, maybe 4 if things go bad. But I think they'll be kind of in the hunt in the lower tier, possibly like 11th or 12th in terms of that. I guess they probably can't be 12th because that's going to be the group of 5 team. You do have Penn State at number 9. So Penn State's like a consensus top 10 team, I would say, or like top 12 team right with Michigan in terms of the Big Ten at West Virginia. That's a noon game to start off. So yeah, Penn State probably going to be somewhere in the range of 8 to 10 in terms of the AP poll. FSU at number 10 kind of had the weird situation last year. They go 13-0. They did lose Jordan Travis. They lost some other players. They're going to have that week 0 game against Georgia Tech in Ireland, I believe. So that'll be happening. I think they're 13-point favorites in that. Those games are always weird when they have them out of the country. They're normally low scoring. I would think Florida State would win that, breaking in DJ Uiagalelei. Missouri at number 11, they face Murray State. Missouri has a very easy SEC schedule when you compare them to other teams, so they could be a team that goes 9-3, 10-2, and makes the playoff. We will see. I mean, right now they're number 11 with Luther Burden and returning Brady Cook, I believe. LSU at number 12. They've got that interesting neutral site game with USC. That's in Las Vegas. That'll be happening on Sunday, not Saturday. So that'll be honestly a big chance for USC to win that game. LSU, we'll see. I mean, they lose a lot. They lost their top two receivers. They lost their Heisman QB. Their defense, I guess, should be better. But 12 is a pretty lofty ranking for them, honestly. I'm surprised they're ahead of teams like Utah, Clemson, Tennessee, honestly. But you can see Utah at number 13 possibly could be the representative if they do win the Big 12 championship, possibly could get a top 4 spot in terms of the playoff. They get Southern Utah, so a great rivalry there. That's an FCS team. That'll be an easy win for them in week 1. Clemson facing Georgia. I mean, if Clemson keeps that game close against Georgia, I think they'll probably move up in the rankings, honestly. Even if they lose by 2 touchdowns or something, they'll probably stay at around 14 or maybe fall to like 19 or 20, but that's obviously a very tough game. I think Clemson's going to have a really good defense, but if you finish like 9-3 in the ACC, you're not making the playoffs, so they're going to have to be better than they've been in previous years. Also, their offense has been really underwhelming. Cade Klubnik back again. He's got a lot of experience. We'll see. Tennessee at number 15, they've got the young star quarterback, or I guess potential star quarterback, Nico Lamaliva. They do open with Chattanooga, should be an easy win. Tennessee has some weird start times. Like they have games at like 1 o'clock, which normally you never see. I think they had another weird start time. I forgot, maybe like 12:45 or something, but that was just something I noticed. Oklahoma at 16. I do like Oklahoma in terms of overall talent. Brett Venables, they certainly have a lot. They begin with Temple. I think that is a Thursday night game or maybe a Friday night game for Oklahoma. I remember seeing something about it being possibly during the week, but Oklahoma, it's going to be tough. They're in the SEC now. They're going to face a bunch of good teams, so even if they get better, they might still only be 8-4 because the schedule is going to get insanely harder. You do have Kansas State. Kansas State possibly with an opening, the young quarterback Avery Johnson, UT Martin in week 1. That'll be an easy win for them. Oklahoma State, when it comes to these Big 12 teams, it's a mosh pit. South Dakota State's really good for an FCS team. That's a tough game for Oklahoma State. I would not want to necessarily open with South Dakota State at home. It's just annoying because if you win it, you're really not going to get much credit because they're still an FCS team. But obviously, if you lose it, it's going to be very bad. Miami at number 19, that's a little bit higher than I thought. I thought Miami would probably be 23 or 24. Normally, they're always a fringe top 25 team. They do have talent. They invested in their NIL. They got multiple 5-stars. They got Cam Ward, who everyone has been talking about, obviously. They will begin at Florida. So a fun little Florida matchup there. Florida versus Florida. Miami at Florida. I believe that's a 3:30 game. That'll be a big game. It'll be interesting. I know Florida's not ranked, and they have a very tough schedule this year. So A&M at number 20. What a huge week 1 chance at home against Notre Dame. Big chance there, and that's going to be a close game in terms of the spread. Notre Dame might only be like 2-point favorites in that game, or it might be like a pick'em. So that's a huge game for A&M. If they lose it, I think, honestly, they'd probably just immediately be eliminated from playoff contention just because you lose a game like that and you still have the bulk of your SEC West schedule. That's going to be tough. I guess they're not doing divisions anymore, but still. Arizona at 21, they had a really good season last year. They lost their head coach, but they retained a lot of their players, including their young star quarterback. New Mexico, that'll be an easy win. NC State, that's a team I thought possibly could be inside of like the top 16 or 15 in terms of the AP poll. In the coaches poll, they're ranked 22. Western Carolina, that's going to be a free win. USC, that's a huge chance, especially with the schedule getting a lot tougher for them. That'd be a big win against LSU, where, I mean, you're going to have kind of the travel advantage there with the game taking place in Las Vegas. Kansas, I think, has definitely the best maybe one of the better offenses in college football, definitely the best offense in the Big 12. Very talented team. They get Lindenwood. That game will be played at an FCS soccer stadium, so a very small capacity stadium there with their current stadium under construction. And then Iowa, I guess they've got a very good defense. I personally would not rank Iowa, but I guess it is good for the Big Ten. They get Illinois State. That'll be a boring like 30-0 win. We already know that. The teams, how about Washington? They made the national title last year. They are not ranked. So they got 123 total points. Iowa with 148. Washington Yeah, it's tough. I think Washington's probably going to go 7-5. Louisville is another team. They had a nice year last year. This year, I mean, in the ACC, they could still have a decent season, but I don't really hate them not being ranked. I understand it. Virginia Tech already getting some hype. They're going to have a pretty manageable schedule. They don't have a crazy hard game until like week 9, and even then, I think it's against Clemson, so they could definitely have a run. SMU is a team they're not another team that has an easy schedule, returning QB. They had a good season last year. Of course, now they are in the ACC, so they're making the big jump. Memphis is a team that I've thought could possibly be the group of 5 team to make the playoff. Boise State as well. Auburn, kind of a run-of-the-mill SEC team that's got talent, but it's a gauntlet. West Virginia getting some votes. That surprises me. Wisconsin, Liberty. Liberty has another ridiculously easy schedule. I don't think Liberty is going to be the group of 5 representative. Their schedule is just way too easy. I wonder if they go undefeated, if they would honestly just go no matter what, because just their schedule is so easy. I don't know. Iowa State, Kentucky, Florida. I mean, you're just seeing all the SEC teams, some ACC teams. UNLV, they had a nice season last year. Maryland getting some hype. You do have Texas Tech, UCF. I do like UCF. UTSA, Tulane, App State, Texas State. People are ranking Texas State, Nebraska, Colorado, Troy, Air Force. They had a nice season last year, at least to start. James Madison, Miami of Ohio, and then Syracuse also now with Kyle McCord. But really, I'm not surprised by this ranking that much. I mean, maybe I might have Miami a little bit lower. Other than that, I mean, there's some things you can move around, I guess, maybe. Ole Miss a little bit lower if you wanted to, but these are kind of like maybe LSU a little bit lower as well. These are kind of like consensus rankings, I would say. To me, there's really nothing crazy about this. Well, it is consensus because it's a bunch of people's opinions combined together. So either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.